you could make money without really doing anything? Well, this is a story about a girl who can cry money. Imagine dollar bills literally coming out of your eyeballs. Now, that sounds kind of painful. But how amazing would it be to cry money? See, these videos say that they're true story animations and they're based off of real life events, but I'm starting to think they're not true at all. So after this video, I'm gonna Google it. If you're enjoying these animated stories, remember to leave a like on the video. So without further ado, let's get into the first video.
Mommy, look, a dolphin.
Oh, wow, darling, isn't it beautiful?
Yes, Mommy. It was a perfect day, and I was having a blast. I watched the dolphins splash in the ocean, and I felt extremely happy. I was only a kid. I think I was 6 years old, but I remember that day like it was yesterday. My mom, dad, and older brother had decided to go sailing that morning. We lived near the sea, and it was something we did at least once a month.
I wish I lived near the sea and lived next to a bunch of dolphins. That would be so cool. But I don't, unfortunately. And I probably never will. That's enough to make me cry.
I ran up and down because it was the first time I'd actually seen dolphins.
Stop doing that on the boat. It's not safe.
Addison, stop!
My dad shouted again.
Why are they shouting?
But it was too late.
Oh no!
I tripped and I fell overboard.
Oh dear.
I could hear my parents screaming on the boat,
Your
but
girl is drowning.
something strange happened. I opened my eyes and I could see clearly. It was magical down there. Fish, coral, shiny stones, and all sorts of creatures.
But how is she not panicking? Because if I fell off a boat and I was going down to the ocean floor, you can guarantee I would be freaking out.
And then I felt something grab my hand and drag me deeper and deeper into the ocean.
Is it a dolphin?
When it let go, I looked around. There were 3 huge octopuses just staring at me. This is gonna sound weird, but I assure you it's 100% true.
Okay.
Hey!
One of them said, "You can talk?"
What?
I answered, surprised that I could speak too. And I could breathe.
Yes, anyway, nice to meet you. My name is Frederick. What were you all doing on that big fish up there?
It's not a fish. It's a boat. And how did you end up with such a human name?
My dad named me that. Well, I'm going to bite your head now.
That one
He
even
said.
has a gun.
And then the thing bit me on the head. I didn't even know octopuses
What?
could bite. But then again, I was 6. I didn't exactly know much. Ouch! What did you do that for?
You'll see.
Then I felt something else grabbing me and pulling me to the shore. What was this? Was I dreaming?
Addison! Addison!
I heard my dad scream. I opened my eyes and he was dripping wet.
Oh, thank goodness you're
he
okay.
rescued her.
You were down there for a really long time. When I finally found you, you were just staring at some seaweed. Why?
I wasn't staring at seaweed. There were these 3 octopuses and one of them was talking to me. Then one of them bit me on the head.
Also, she was drowning. She wasn't just down there casually checking out some seaweed. She fell off the boat, she was drowning, and then she got attacked by an octopus. Sounds like my idea of a terrible day out.
Yes, okay. Clearly you're not okay. We'll go home and take you to the hospital tomorrow.
Suddenly I remembered the pain and I started crying. But my tears didn't feel like they usually did.
Huh?
They were really cold and heavy. And then I heard it. Clink, clink,
Wait,
clink.
what?
I looked around and I saw little gold coins.
She cries
You're crying
gold
money,
coins.
Addison.
My mom screamed.
But how is this possible? This isn't normal. What's going on?
My dad said. My brother was jumping up and down. It was just total chaos.
That's
I
crazy.
pinched myself many times hoping to wake up from this weird dream, but there was no hope.
So I think when she cries normal tears and then they hit the ground and they turn into coins. I wouldn't hate that. I'd kind of be down.
My mom got her handbag and started filling it up with the coins.
Of course
I
she
continued
did.
crying because I was really confused about what was happening to me.
And I bet she
When
was
we got home,
scared.
my parents were really nice to me. After I got cleaned up, they wrapped me up in blankets and made me my favorite hot chocolate with lots of marshmallows. I remember falling asleep feeling really safe and secure. But that feeling didn't last very long.
Why?
The next morning, I rolled over in bed and I opened my eyes. My mom was putting all of my favorite stuffed animals in a garbage bag.
What?
Mom, stop! What are you doing?
I'm going to set them on fire.
No! I
Oh my
screamed and then I started
gosh.
crying. And of course, I was still crying money instead of tears.
Okay, I see why the mummy's doing this. She's making her sad on purpose so that she'll cry more tears and thus cry more coins.
I can't even begin to explain how uncomfortable that was.
Hey, honey, she's still crying money.
My mom shouted and my dad came in with a bag to collect the coins. At that point, I realized that my parents were making me cry on purpose.
Yeah.
So, of course, that made me cry even more. Why would they do that to me? My own parents.
Okay, you can stop now. You have to get ready for school.
I went to school angrier than I'd ever been in my life, and I came home even more miserable. I went up to my room to play with my hamster Buttercup, but
Aww.
his cage was open and he wasn't there.
Wait, what?
Mom? Dad? Where's Buttercup?
What happened?
I shouted. My mom came straight up to my room.
Don't tell me they did something to the hamster. No, I hope the hamster's okay.
Well, the neighbor's cat came wandering in here earlier, so I decided to give her a snack.
You
What?
fed Buttercup to the neighbor's cat? I felt heartbroken. I loved that hamster more
Oh
than
my
anything else in the
gosh.
world. I cried so much I felt like I could never stop. And both my mom and dad came to collect the money again. My
Of
parents
course they
would do
did.
horrible stuff like this to me at least twice a week. Eventually, I reached a point where I'd been so hurt by them that it was really hard for me to feel emotions and even harder for me to cry. In the past, they'd grounded me for no reason, forgotten my birthday, given me no Christmas presents, and they always fed me the most disgusting food ever.
Ew.
Like, can you imagine being forced to eat 2-week-old food? When I refused it, I'd become so hungry that, yep, you guessed it, I'd start crying. There was nothing my awful parents wouldn't do. There's even a time my mom came to my school dressed in a hideous outfit just to embarrass me.
This girl's parents, they sounded nice at the beginning of the story, but now they sound evil. I can't believe they did that to the hamster. I'm literally heartbroken.
I had to wait until we got back to the car to start crying. And, of course, my parents were becoming richer and richer. But they'd only
No.
spend that money on themselves. My dad bought 2 new expensive cars, and my mom had all the latest designer outfits, bags, and shoes.
All
My
funded
brother
by
got
her
lots of
tears.
presents too. They were flaunting their money so much that all of their friends thought they'd received promotions. And you know what? They bought me nothing. It was so unfair. So when I turned 13, I decided to put my foot down.
Couldn't she just cry to herself, like in her room at nighttime, and then keep all the coins and buy herself stuff?
You all bought me nothing for my birthday again.
It's because you're a lousy daughter.
Do you think that's going to make me cry? Because it isn't. I'm gonna report you to the police.
What are they gonna
You
do?
should.
Believe that you cry money? And even if you provided it to them, they'd want to take you away to a lab and
That's
study you.
true. They might
You'd
want
be
to.
locked up in a little room all alone for the rest of your life. You have no choice but to stay here.
I realized that what she was saying was true. If anyone knew about my strange disorder, I'd be done for. I definitely didn't want to become anyone's lab rat. But you know what? I didn't cry. So they tried something new. You'll never believe what they did, but
What are
a
they
few
doing?
days later, they had a new strategy.
Okay.
Addie, we've created a new chore for you. You have to peel all these onions we bought, and after that,
To make
we'll
her
allow
cry.
you to have some food.
It was already late and I was starving because I hadn't eaten since breakfast. Are you guys serious? My mom and dad just smiled.
They're evil.
I got to work and, of course, my tears of money fell to the floor. I peeled about 100 onions and I made them a fortune. They made me do this every single day.
Wow.
And then they'd sell
That's
the
a lot
chopped
of
onions
onions.
to restaurants for a really cheap price. These people thought they were getting a good deal, but the truth is, my parents had already made their fortune from my tears. But how could I put an end to all of this? I decided I'd need to try to find that strange octopus again. It was a scary idea, but I finally developed enough courage to make a plan.
So what is she about to do? Go back down to the ocean floor, find the octopus, and reverse the spell? Would that work?
I was gonna sneak out at night, go to the harbor, and steal a little boat.
Okay.
I'd try to remember the spot where I fell into the ocean when I was a little girl, and then I'd dive in and ask the creature to take the strange powers back.
Ah.
And then the night arrived and I got to work. I waited until everyone at home was asleep and then I walked to the harbor.
This is dangerous,
The place
though.
was isolated, so all I had to do was find a boat. I settled on a little dingy because, well, to be honest, I had no idea how to sail or operate a boat. I got in, untied it, turned on the engine, and sped away. When I think back to this night, I ask myself if I was crazy because I took nothing with me. Not even a backpack with some snacks and water.
How is she gonna remember the same spot that she fell in like 6 years ago?
I was just determined to get rid of this crazy problem, which was causing my
Understandable.
parents to make my life hell. After about 15 minutes, I turned off the engine. Do I jump now? I thought. After coming all that way, I totally lost the courage. I kept telling myself I'd do it after a few minutes, but I eventually fell asleep.
What?
When I woke up, the sun was already shining. I looked around and I was filled with terror when I realized what had just happened. I was lost.
Oh no.
I must have been sleeping for a very long time, and right now, I could be anywhere. How was I gonna get back home? What was I gonna do? So of course, I started crying again. The boat continued drifting, and I left a trail of coins in my path. I started to feel so hungry and thirsty, and it wasn't like I could just drink the seawater.
This is not
Eventually,
good.
I just fell asleep again because I had no idea what else to do. I woke up to someone shaking me. I opened my eyes.
Who is
It
it?
was a kind old man with a white beard and a mustache.
What?
Little girl, are you okay?
That's kind of creepy. Was he in the boat?
I'm not a little girl, I'm 13.
You're a little girl. What are you doing out here? Where are your parents?
I don't have any parents. I'm an orphan. I lied. I looked around. I was on a much bigger boat and there were other people on board,
Well, okay. We'll take you back to shore.
he said. In
Oh,
about
he's
an hour, we
nice.
reached the shore of what seemed to be like an island. It didn't look like the harbor I'd left at all. I looked at the people on the shore and they all looked different from me. Where am I?
You're in Tuvalu.
He smiled. Wow, I can't believe the boat drifted this far, I thought.
I'll take you to my daughter's house. She has 2 other children, but I'm sure she won't mind helping one more.
Wait, so she's gonna be adopted by this man's daughter? What about going home or reversing the spell?
He took me to a house near the beach. It was much smaller than the house I lived in with my parents, but at that point, I'd made the decision to continue lying so I'd never have to go back to my parents.
Fair enough.
Iolani, my dear daughter. We brought home a guest. Her name is...
He looked at me.
I don't even know your name.
It's Daphne, I lied. A beautiful woman with long, beautiful hair which was nearly touching the ground opened the door.
Hello, Daphne. Come in. Sit down.
That's
I'll make
scary.
you something to eat.
The old
Why
man
did
went
she
into
look
the
like
kitchen
that?
with her as she was cooking, and I heard him telling her all about how he found me. She brought me some delicious food, and I ate it all up like I'd never seen food before,
So, Daphne,
she said.
should we try to get you home and find your family?
I have no family. My parents fell off the boat
Oh,
I
she's
was on
crying.
and they drowned.
Oh no, sweetheart. You must be traumatized.
Did she cry coins?
Can I stay with you?
Sure. We don't have much, but I'll try my best to make sure you're happy. Here, meet my 2 children.
She introduced me to her 2 little girls. They were the cutest ever. One of them immediately held my hands and asked me to follow her to the beach.
Aww.
Now I spend most of my life on the beach with my new family. Of course, I have to go to school and do all of that regular stuff too, but this new identity is so much better for my mental health. Sometimes I do think about how difficult my life was and how horrible my parents were. And when
They
I
were
do,
pretty
I end up
awful.
crying. But I do it late at night on the dining table when everyone's asleep. So when Iwalani wakes up, she finds a pile of money on the
Aw.
table. It's helped with the family's finances a lot, and the best thing is, nobody knows where it came from. I'm just happy I have my freedom and that I'm not forced to do anything anymore. I'm not sure if my parents have been trying to look for me, but honestly, I don't care. I feel safe here, and no one will take this feeling away from me. Also, I dyed my hair and I got a few piercings, so they'll never recognize me anyway.
So she was never able to reverse the spell, but at least now she lives a very happy life with a really nice lady. This next story is all about a girl who can cry diamonds. So we've had a girl who could cry money, but now it's diamonds. And I don't know which I'd rather, to be honest.
Hi everyone, I'm
Hello.
Agnes. I have a miraculous condition that is seen only in very few people in the world. When you find out what it is, I'm sure you'll be very surprised and will probably wish you had it too. But please wait until you hear the whole story. I'm sure you're going to change your mind, because as you will soon see, this is in no way a precious gift bestowed on me.
There's always a dark side to these stories, and usually it includes greedy people.
It's definitely a curse. Before starting elementary school, I was always at home. My mom wouldn't let me go to preschool or kindergarten.
Why?
I really wanted to go to kindergarten because my cousin Casey was going. And I wanted to be just like her. But no matter how much I begged her, my mom wouldn't let me. I rarely saw my dad because he was traveling for work all the time. He was home for only a few days a month. One time when he was home, I asked him, "Dad, why can't I go to kindergarten like Casey? Will you talk to Mom? I really want to go. My dad shrugged. I told your mother many times, but she won't listen. She says you'll go to elementary school. Your mother is the most stubborn person in the world. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it.
I think that's so mean though. Like, surely the kid is better off at kindergarten than at home, not learning or making friends.
My dad was my last hope, but when he also told me that I couldn't go to kindergarten, I started crying. My mom was making dinner in the kitchen. She ran over to me when she heard me crying. She grabbed my hand and took me to my room. Then she said, Agnes dear, please don't cry when your father's here. She always used to tell me this. I was so little. I couldn't think of asking my mom, why do you not want me to cry when my father's around? I was able to find out the reason many years later. Thankfully, my mom kept her promise when it came time for me to start school. Of course, she wanted me to start my education, too. But on the first day, she told me over and over, no matter what happens, don't ever cry at school. It's very important. Do you understand, Agnes?
Oh, so her mom already knows that her daughter is crying diamonds, and that's probably why she didn't want her to go to kindergarten. Because we all know little kids cry quite a lot.
Even though I said, yes, Mommy, every time, she kept telling me the same thing every day. When I would come home from school, she would ask, honey, did you cry at school? In the morning, as she was dropping me off, she'd say, no crying at school, no matter what happens.
Every day.
My mom's obsession with my crying at school continued for years. When I was a little older, I tried asking her why she was so concerned about it. Mom would say, you're too young. I will explain it to you when you are a little older, and wouldn't say anything else. Back then, I had a crush on a boy at school named Brody. I thought he also liked me because he would do all kinds of things to try to get my attention. One day, he was doing skateboard tricks in the schoolyard to impress me. At the same time, he was looking at me and checking to see if I was watching him. All of a sudden, his skateboard flew out from under his feet, and he fell really badly. I ran over to him right away. He was in so much pain that he started crying, not caring that I was standing next to him. He was sobbing uncontrollably. That moment, I noticed that liquid was coming out of his eyes and running down his cheeks. I was really surprised to see this because that's not what happens when I cry.
What?
I couldn't help myself and even touched his tear with the tip of my finger. Brody thought I was showing him affection and started crying more easily. And thanks to this, I was able to take a closer look at the liquid coming out of his eyes. You must be wondering why I was so surprised. Because when I cried, instead of liquid, I had small glass-like particles coming out of my eyes. Until then, I had never seen someone crying up close. That's why the liquid coming out of Brody's eyes had really surprised me. When I got back home, my mom asked me her usual question, did you cry at school? I said to her, no, I didn't, but a friend of mine did, and told her about what happened. There were lots of questions in my mind. Was it Brody who cried in a strange way, or was it me? Did other people also have liquid coming out of their eyes, or did they have the small particles like me? I wanted to know which one of us was normal. My mom took a deep breath. Then she said, Agnes, what I'm about to tell you will need to stay as our secret.
Okay.
You can't tell this to anyone, including your father. She started explaining that, first off, that liquid is called a tear, and told me that normally when people cry, salt water or tears come out of their eyes.
Yeah.
But because I was a special kid, I cried differently. Then she added, there's something else that is important for you to know. What comes out of your eyes is not glass, it's diamonds. That was the day I found out that diamonds are very valuable. They're so valuable that if we sold the little diamond crumbs that come out when I cry, we could buy a luxury home. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So why don't we? I asked.
Yeah,
My
why
mom
not?
said, because if people find out you're crying diamonds, that might have really dangerous consequences.
Oh, true.
What kind of dangerous consequences? I asked. And my mom said in a worried voice, Agnes, bad men might kidnap you. Then they'd force you to cry all the time so that the diamonds come out.
This is
The
true.
mafia may hold you hostage every single day of your whole life. Even though I was young, I understood the gravity of the situation. I promised my mom that I would never mention this to anyone ever. This would be our
Aw.
secret.
You see, in this story, the mom is really nice, and I like that. At the beginning, I was like, oh, it's not nice that she's making her stay at home and not go to school, but it's just to protect her, and I totally understand that.
About 4 years after that conversation, my parents were involved in a car crash.
Oh no!
My dad did not have any serious injuries. But despite the doctor's best efforts,
No
my mom
way.
didn't make it. I felt like I was in a bad dream. I wouldn't be able to see the most beloved person in my life anymore. Despite my grief, I kept the promise that I had made to her. Not even one speck of diamond came out of my eyes at my mom's funeral. I didn't cry at all. People probably thought that I never cried because I was in shock. But that wasn't the case. The truth was that every minute I was alone, I spent crying for my mom. I was putting the small diamonds that come out of my eyes into a bag and hiding them in a closet in the basement. The basement was the safest place in our house because nobody had used it for a long time. I didn't collect the diamonds because I wanted to sell them. I had to hide them because my secret would be out if someone had found them.
I can't believe her mom passed away. That's actually so sad. And the thing is, her dad doesn't even know that she cries diamonds. So is she gonna tell him, or is he never gonna know?
Because I couldn't stay home by myself, my dad had to stop traveling. He got transferred to another department at work. I told you earlier that my dad and I didn't have the best relationship. I thought that was because we spent too little time together, but it turned out that wasn't the reason.
Why?
Now he was always home. But still, we never became very close. 4.5 months after my mom's passing, my dad said to me, "There's someone in my life. I'm thinking about marrying her." I was obviously
That's not
shocked,
very
but
long.
I couldn't say anything. So I just nodded. Now I had a stepmother. I was so sad that my dad had gotten married so quickly, and his new wife didn't seem like a nice person.
She looks
And
evil.
if that wasn't enough, my stepmother had a daughter named Nancy,
Oh,
and she
no.
was just like her mom. It didn't seem possible for me to have a relationship with them. I understood that from now on, I was a stranger in my own house. After they got married, my stepmother and her daughter moved in. Thankfully, our house was big enough. I didn't have to share a room with Nancy. She got her own room, but little Miss Nancy didn't like her room. My friends come over for slumber parties all the time. Agnes's room is bigger. She should move into my room, and I into hers,
No
she said.
way.
My dad came to tell me this. Nancy is younger than you. Let's not upset her, he said. I couldn't help it and told him what I really thought of both Nancy and her mom. I also said to him, if my mom is watching us right now, I'm sure she's very upset that you've gotten married so quickly.
She
My
would
dad's
be.
face turned red and he screamed, "You're switching rooms with Nancy tomorrow. From now on, you will eat your dinner in your room. I don't want to see your face for a long time." That day, I cried in my room for hours. Naturally, a lot of tiny diamonds came out of my eyes. They were all over the place as I was
Look at her
stomping on the floor with
stomping.
anger. When I woke up in the morning, I picked them up one by one and put them in small plastic bags. That afternoon, Nancy and I switched rooms. I had carefully picked up all the diamonds that had fallen around while I was crying. But unfortunately, I did the stupidest thing and left one of the bags under the bed.
No way.
When Nancy found the plastic bag, she took it to her mom. Her mom figured out right away that the bag was full of diamonds. But still, she wanted to make sure by showing them to a jeweler she knew.
Yeah, because if you found a bag of diamonds under your bed, you think they were fake. But also, wouldn't you question the child, Nancy, who was in that room? Like, where did you get these? Because I would be worried that she stole them or something.
When the man confirmed it, my stepmother told my dad about what happened. Nancy came to my room and told me my dad wanted to see me. I had no idea what had happened, but I still felt that something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
When I walked into the living room and saw the little bag full of diamonds, I was so shocked. My dad asked me, "Agnes, where did you find these?" I couldn't answer at first. I started rambling incoherently. My dad said, "There's a fortune in that bag. I'm asking you again, where did you find these diamonds?" I was never able to lie to anyone's face in my whole life,
did she
and now I was
say?
going to tell the truth again. "Dad, they come out of my eyes when I cry," I said. My stepmother and
No
Nancy burst out
way.
laughing. My stepmother said, "Did you say your eyes? Couldn't you make up a better lie? This is the worst lie I have ever heard in my life." I told them it wasn't a lie, but they didn't believe me. My dad said, "Agnes, you're embarrassing me. Tell us the truth now." "I am telling the truth," I screamed and started crying. Of course,
The
tiny
diamonds are
diamonds
coming
started
out.
coming out of my eyes as I cried. My dad, my stepmother, and Nancy were staring at me astonished. After witnessing this scene, they were finally convinced I was telling the truth. When I was little, I thought that everyone cried just like me. But my mom made sure that nobody ever saw me cry, not even my dad. She was afraid that if bad guys found out that I was crying diamonds, they would kidnap me and hold me hostage for the rest of my life. She was right to think that way. One day, my mom made me promise that I'd keep my condition a secret until I died. 4
But now
years
people
later,
know.
she was involved in a car accident and passed away. My dad got married again soon after. My stepmother has a daughter, and I didn't like either of them from the moment I saw them. Obviously, I didn't want them to find out about my secret, but unfortunately, I wasn't careful, and they learned the truth. At first, they didn't believe me. They even laughed at me. But when I started crying in front of them, they saw that it was true.
That's crazy.
It was a huge surprise for everyone to find out that I had this incredible condition. It was my dad who spoke first. Agnes, this is unbelievable and very dangerous too. If people knew about this, really bad things could happen to you. I understand now why your mother kept this, even from me. Then he turned to my stepmother and her daughter. From now on, Agnes's secret is our secret too. To protect her, we can't tell anyone about it. I want you to promise that you won't. They both nodded and said, "We promise." Then my stepmother grabbed the bag of diamonds from my dad, which of course wasn't surprising. But there's no harm in selling these. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone where they came from. Agnes, from now on, you'll give me the diamonds that come out of your eyes, and I'll sell them for our family. The next day, my stepmother and her daughter came home with a ton of shopping bags.
Oh no,
Looking at the bags, I could tell that they went to all the most expensive stores. Apparently, when my stepmother said our family, she meant only herself and her own daughter.
Yeah.
My stepmother's daughter, Nancy, came to my room that evening. She was very excited, saying, "My mom says it would be so wonderful to move into a big, beautiful house, and we can do it thanks to you. It wouldn't hurt you to cry a little. What do you say?" It was useless to argue. I said, "Okay, I'll collect and give you the diamonds if I cry, just to get rid of her." She left my room ecstatic.
This is so sad because her mum was there looking out for her, and now she's trapped with this stepmom and evil stepsister who just want to use her for her power.
Next morning when I came to get breakfast, I saw my stepmother and her daughter waiting for me impatiently. My stepmother asked, "Did you cry? Where are the diamonds?" I was so angry. Before I could say anything, Dad said, "Honey, you shouldn't say things like that. Agnes should never feel like she's under pressure," which shut my stepmother up.
Yeah.
This subject didn't come up again for a while. I was surprised that they gave up so quickly. Later, I found out it was because they still had money. They were going shopping almost every day, but after a while, they stopped. That's when I figured the money had run out. One day, I was hanging out in my room after school. Nancy came in and said, "Mom is calling you. She made popcorn. She says, let's watch a movie together." I was surprised because this was very unusual. I thought to myself, where did this come from? When I came to the living room, my stepmother was looking at me with a fake smile on her face. "Agnes, this movie has very good reviews. Let's watch it together," she said. So we started watching this Will Smith movie. First, the main character lost his job. Then his wife left him. He was left with his 6-year-old son. As if that weren't enough, the landlord kicked them out. They had to start living on the streets.
Oh, I've seen this film.
When I saw my stepmother and Nancy crying their hearts out, I knew what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
They wanted to make me cry during the sentimental movie and then collect the diamonds. But there was one thing they didn't know. I never get emotional during movies.
Oh, good.
I don't get scared when I watch horror movies, and I don't cry during tearjerkers. My stepmother and her daughter cried throughout the whole movie. At the same time, they kept checking to see if I was crying too. When the movie was over, they were really upset because they didn't get those diamonds they were dreaming about. Over the next few days, my stepmother did everything she could to make me cry. Thankfully, because she was scared of my dad, they were all harmless tricks. But one of them made me really mad.
And what was that?
When I came home after school, I went straight to my room, like I always do. When I entered my room, I was so shocked by what I saw. The curtains were closed. There were lit candles standing around.
Creepy.
The weirdest part was that there were a bunch of photos of my mom taped to the wall.
This is way worse than the onion trick. This is actually like emotionally tormenting her.
In some of them, my mom was by herself, and in others, it was both of us. This, of course, was my stepmother's latest trick.
Awful.
I ran over to her. "Can you explain to me what is happening in my room?" I screamed. She faked surprise, saying, "I found out that your mom's birthday is coming up. I wanted to surprise you. Didn't you like it?" I said, "I didn't because I know why you did it. I won't cry just because you want me to."
She's
After
not
which
stupid.
she dropped all pretense. "Look, Agnes, you're the goose that lays the golden egg. That's why I won't hurt you. But if you want to live in this house, you'll have to come up with the goods, or I won't be responsible for what's going to happen to you."
What does
She
that
was
mean?
clearly threatening me. I got back to my room fuming. I had to do something right away. When my dad came home, I went to speak with him. Before I could open my mouth, he said, "Your mom called me and told me about what happened between you. She made a surprise for you with the best of intentions. Your reaction is wrong. You've become too paranoid."
Dad
I
doesn't
said,
understand.
"Dad, first of all, that woman is not my mother, and how can you even think that her intentions are good? All she is trying to do is to make me cry and get the diamonds."
Yep.
My dad got really upset. "Even if you don't accept it, she's your mother now. If you think she wants the diamonds, then give them to her.
This poor
Why are you being so
girl.
stubborn?" he screamed. When he said that to me, I knew my stepmother got to him.
Yeah.
From
She already
then on,
got in
it was
there.
dangerous for me to stay at home because of the things my mom was worried about could happen to me. Except my mom was afraid of the mafia, but it looked like it would be my own stepmother who would
She
hurt
is
me.
the mafia.
I thought for a long time. I couldn't go to the police or the social services because then my secret would be out. That could cause a whole lot of other problems.
is she gonna
I had
run
enough
away?
diamonds hidden in the basement to allow me to support myself for years. But I couldn't leave home because I
She's not
wasn't an
old
adult
enough.
yet. I didn't have any relatives that I could safely stay with. Even though I was so angry with my stepmother, I had no choice but to give her what she wanted.
No
At
way.
night, when everyone else was sleeping, I went down to the basement and got a small bag of diamonds. In the morning, I took out a few and went to the kitchen. My stepmother and her daughter were having breakfast. I showed them the diamonds in my hand. "Finally!" my stepmother screamed. She took the diamonds. But she was clearly not satisfied, saying, "These are way too few. We need a lot more than just these."
How rude.
Of course, I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. I was going to turn 18 in only 7 months. After that, I was determined to take my diamonds and leave home. Until that day came, I was going to stall my stepmother by giving her a few diamonds from time to time. Since the diamonds in the basement were my future, I had to hide them somewhere outside the house,
Yeah,
somewhere
but
safer.
where can
So
she
do you
put
know where I
them?
hid them? At my mom's grave. I bought a nice
gosh.
flower planter. I put the bag with the diamonds at the bottom. I filled it up with soil and then planted the flowers on top.
That is so risky because somebody could come along and easily steal the flowers. I know people do that from cemeteries a lot, like way more than you'd think. I don't know how they dare to do that because I would be worried about being haunted.
I went to the cemetery and put the planter in front of my mom's tombstone. I couldn't think of a safer spot than that.
That is
Who would
cute.
steal a flower pot from a grave? I was so relieved because the diamonds were safe with my mom. I left one
People
bag
do,
inside
though.
the
People
cupboard in
do
the
steal
basement.
them.
I was taking a couple of diamonds a few times a month and giving them to my stepmother. Even though she wanted more, she couldn't say anything. Because thanks to me, she'd bought a new car. She was wearing only designer clothes, and she got a ton of jewelry.
That's terrible.
The day before my 18th birthday, my stepmother and her daughter came to my room. I was about to finally become free, but of course, they didn't know that. My stepmother looked agitated. "Agnes, why aren't we moving into a better house? Why don't we have maids and cooks?" she asked. "Because you don't have enough money to afford all that," I replied. She waved her finger
Good
at
reply.
me. "We actually do have money. All you need to do is cry, but you're not doing it on purpose. You're giving us crumbs just like you would to a beggar," she said. "Do you want me to cry just so that I can give you diamonds?" I asked her. And she said, "Yes, Agnes, I want you to cry. If you don't cry on your own, I will make you cry. I'm done waiting.
Oh my
I'm giving you
gosh.
until tomorrow. If you don't cooperate, you're going to be in a lot of trouble." And she left. Nancy was still in the room. "Agnes, you'd better take my mom seriously. She's capable of doing things you can't even imagine,"
Oh, I don't
she
like
said
her
and
one
left,
bit. She's
slamming the door
evil.
behind her. I thought, my dear stepmother gave me until tomorrow, but she has no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, and burst out laughing.
Because your girl is running
Never
away.
in my life have I slept more peacefully than I did that night. You're wondering what happened in the house the next day, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Tell
I don't know,
us.
because I didn't stick around to find out. When I woke up in the morning, I was an 18-year-old adult. I could do whatever I wanted.
Nice.
And I did. I left home without saying a word to anyone. Right now, I'm in a small town on the other side of the country. I'm not using my real name. No one in this town knows who I am. As you might guess, I'm living on the money from the diamonds that I hid at my mom's
they
grave.
never got
I
stolen.
don't need a
That's
lot of money
good.
anyway. But when I do, I can just cry a little. And I found a very easy way to do it. Because I'd never cooked before, I'd never chopped onions either.
We
One
got
day
the
I was
onion
making dinner
trick.
and I chopped onions for the first time. Suddenly, diamonds started pouring out of my eyes. I realized that I could cry very easily thanks to onions. I'm so happy my stepmother couldn't think of this.
How sad is it that both characters had to leave home in the end? Anyway guys, that's where this video has come to an end. If you enjoyed this and you want to see similar videos, make sure to leave a like, it lets me know to make more. And if you want to see another video from me, you can click on one of these and I'll see you over there.